You're watching Fugitive Red Eye, and welcome to another Dragon Ball related video. Last week I said I was going to do this one, and I'm going to do it, so here we go. I actually have a few other videos planned for Dragon Ball that I'm going to release on a weekly basis for a while. It's by no means necessarily a regular occurrence, but I just have a few ideas and I want to space them out a week apart, just because I feel like I don't want it to be too samey on my channel. I don't want to just have one type of content, so. But today I'll be talking about why Bardock, the father of Goku, is the best part of Dragon Ball Z, and in a way is my favorite overall Dragon Ball episode, quote-unquote, if you want to call it that. I mean, it's technically a TV special. I've also referred to it as my favorite Dragon Ball movie, so it can be looked at in a few different ways, but it is essentially just a double-length episode. My favorite character of Dragon Ball used to always be Vegeta, and Vegeta's still a close second for me. He's by far my second favorite character, but my favorite character is Bardock, by far. And to be clear, we're talking Bardock from Bardock, the father of Goku, not the Dragon Ball Minus / Dragon Ball Super Broly Bardock, and not the episode of Bardock, who, in a way, is actually better than the Dragon Ball Super Broly Bardock, in my opinion, but we'll get to that in another episode where I talk about why episode of Bardock really isn't that bad. That said, it isn't as good as this one that we're talking about today, Bardock, the father of Goku, so we'll get into that next week. So what makes Bardock so cool? Well, Bardock is never meant to be a good guy. He's just the lesser of two evils, in a quite literal sense. He's a guy that goes around wiping out entire planets just because that's how he makes his money. He doesn't give a shit that he's wiping out entire populations. On top of that, he's a Saiyan, so all he really cares about is strength and whatnot. But the thing is ultimately, even though he's this ruthless warrior, he still cares about his family and his people. And so when he finds out that Frieza is gonna wipe out his entire species, he decides he needs to do something about that. And he does. Granted, he fails, and that's why Frieza's still around in Z, obviously. Now, this video will contain spoilers for Bardock, the father of Goku, so just so you know, you have been warned. One of the other major things that makes Bardock, the father of Goku, cooler than any other part of Dragon Ball Z is the fact that it actually has things at stake. I mean, there's no Dragon Balls. Deaths are permanent in this special. Unless you go off the logic of the second special, but again, we'll talk about that next week. That said, Bardock is not a good guy, and he's only fighting to try and protect his people, full well knowing that he has no chance against Frieza, and none of his people will believe him. He rushes to tell all of them what's going on, and they just won't listen to him. It all falls on deaf ears. And then he confronts Frieza, and Frieza kills him. In a way, it actually kind of pisses me off the way Goku reacts about Bardock in Dragon Ball Z. It makes sense, given that he has no reason to care who Bardock is. And if you don't know what I'm referring to, Frieza mentions that he killed Goku's father, and Goku just simply says, "Oh, I don't care." Which, yeah, whatever, he doesn't really know Bardock, but it's still fucked up to me, because all the shit Bardock went through to try and save his people, and if you go on the logic of Dragon Ball Minus and Bardock and Dragon Ball Super Broly, then he also protected Goku by sending him to Earth, but that's not actually what happened in the original Bardock special, Bardock the Father of Goku, because Goku was originally sent to Earth to try and wipe it out and conquer it for the Saiyans, which was even stated in Dragon Ball Z itself, not just within the special, and within the manga. But then Toriyama had to go and contradict it because, Toriyama forgot. That's going to be my new thing I'm going to go with, like I said last video. Instead of Araki forgot, it's just going to be Toriyama forgot. But Bardock, the father of Goku, is overall a darker, more gritty Dragon Ball movie. That's why I love it, and that's why I think it's better than the rest of Dragon Ball Z, because things are actually at stake. Death matters. The hero doesn't win. I do think a large part of why I like it so much is I'm a real big sucker for tragedy. I love tragic stories, and that's what this is it's a tragedy. It's someone who tries to save his people and fails. And he's not a good guy. He's a horribly flawed character, and yet you still root for him because he's so well written that he's actually really cool. There's also the symbolism of the red headband, which he soaks in the blood of his companions, which is really symbolic, and that's why I'm really happy that that's a thing. But then, in Dragon Ball Minus, the red headband doesn't fucking exist, nor does it exist in Dragon Ball Super Broly, which is utter bullshit, because the headband is one of the most defining things about his backstory. And Toriyama did put the headband in the original Dragon Ball Z manga when he implemented Bardock into the story. Again, Bardock was not created by Toriyama, but he liked the idea so much he incorporated it in the story, even though it's darker than a lot of Dragon Ball. And while I don't think Bardock's death in Bardock the Father of Goku is the saddest Dragon Ball death, it is really close. It's the second saddest Dragon Ball death, in my opinion. We'll get to the first in another video. In fact, what I'll do is, I'm gonna leave a poll on the end of this video. If you want me to talk about my top 10 Dragon Ball deaths next week, vote for that. Or if you want me to do the video talking about the second Bardock special episode of Bardock, next week, then vote for that. Bardock the Father of Goku is a really cool movie, and Bardock is by far my favorite Dragon Ball character. He's just such a unique and interestingly written character, and he never has that, oh, I turn good, etc. arc. He's, you know, a bad guy, but he has good in him. That's the whole point. Anyway, this has been Fugitive Red Eye. Have a great day.
I'm gonna fucking die here, Jack!